Yeah? So the first contraction is the world of Atzilus itself. The Hashem himself contracts himself, but it's still God. It's just God in, so to speak, a form that he has made for himself. But now he's going to create. So now he's got what to create with, because he's got hands, so to speak. So let's say he's going to create with three different parts of himself. Let's put the hands aside. He's going to create with thought, speech, and action. Right? Because now he's just invented for himself thought, speech, and action. That's already coming into a world of Atzilus. But again, it's still Shmi Uchvodi. It's still him. It's not something other than him. It's just him in a form which is light in vessel, his own vessel. Now he's going to create Bria Tzir and Asiyah. So he's going to create this table. He's going to first create it in Bria, which means he's going to create it with thought. Right? Which means he's going to think up this table. So just like our thought happens, where does it happen? It happens inside of ourselves. Right? So therefore, the table of Bria is now happening inside of him. Oh, it's not him. It's not just his body with his emotions, and it's not him anymore. He's now has another thing in the game, which is a table. But it's a table of thought, which means a very high level of table. This is a table which is inside of God. It has not yet expressed itself in any way where it's separate from him. It's just that it's not him, because it's a table, it's not him. So it's separate from him to a certain degree, but it hasn't come out of him to experience itself as a separate thing. And that's what means machshava. It's inside of you, even though it's not you. Right? Something you're thinking of.
It's an energy intelligence.
Then he speaks. That's the world of Yetzirah. So he brings that same table, but now he's brought into a completely different form. It's no longer inside of the creature. It's outside of the creature. It's in a word separate from him. And therefore the table itself looks completely different, feels completely different, doesn't have any more like this. It's not surrounded anymore inside of the brain of God. It's already exited, so to speak, the mouth of God. So its experience of self is much more. It's actually exited. And then the notion of doing, that the table we're actually looking at, is Hashem making the table. So it's even a further level of contraction. In other words, the idea of the realm of asiyah, of doing. Why is this even a further contraction? Because when you're speaking, even though it comes out of you, it's continuously connected with you. When you're speaking, it's live speech. So even though it's outside of your mouth, but you're officially at every moment blowing it into creation, it's still joined with you. Whereas when you make something, you make a table and you can walk away from it. It exists, the energy that you put into it, you don't have to continuously put into it. You walk away. Okay, now, even though he's still putting the energy into it, the experience on the part of the table and part of us in this world is that he's made it and walked away. It's such a diminished light that this table that he's putting into it, the light is as though he's walked away. And this is what it means, asiyah. You following this?
Wait, do we live inside of Asiyah?
Yes.
Mamish?
This is asiyah.
Really?
Are there many worlds in Asiyah? Like, are these 4 worlds? We said there's 1,000, like, infinite worlds.
But at a certain point, that's all within the spiritual world. We're talking about over here is asiyah ruchnis. There's 2 levels of asiyah. There's asiyah, which is still like a spiritual world, and there's many levels of it. But when it comes to asiyah gashmi, the physical world of asiyah, there's only one. This is the universe.
So too with Yitzir and Bria?
No, not necessarily. No, definitely not. Just asiyah, this is it, the bottom. We're at the bottom, right? There's no worlds below this. So even though there's infinite worlds above this, there's no worlds below this at all.
Maybe there is and we don't know about it.
Well, there isn't, according to the Torah. The Tachtonim means Hashem wants a dwelling place in the lowest world. Means there is a lowest world.
But it could be that maybe
I'm saying, but the Torah doesn't. The Torah says otherwise. There could also be a lot of things that we don't know about it. But I'm saying the Torah is here to instruct us, and it tells us what's going on. How do you know there's a world of Atzilus?
maybe
How do you know
when
there's...
Mashiach will come, maybe something different will be revealed. How do we know?
We know, just like same way we know that everything the Torah tells us is true. Like we know that when Mashiach comes, he's not going to come and say, guess what? The Torah was never given on Har Sinai to Moshe Rabbeinu. It's not going to happen. Because God told us in the Torah, and it's eternally true. The same thing is true with everything we know from the Torah. In other words, the fact that it's telling us right now the structure of reality and of creation. So we're not going to all of a sudden, he's not going to change this. I mean, if he wants to change the structure, he could change the structure. But he's not going to. Because this is the structure that he created, and this is the structure that he wants to be here. So Baruch Hashem, that he told us what the structure is. He didn't have to tell us anything. Now he told us, this is what it is.
So Hashem can't. So it's Hashem that if he doesn't, if he wants to change his mind, I mean, he can change his mind if he wants.
It's just
to.
that lo yishakir. He
I
doesn't
mean,
change.
We know him and we don't know him.
No, but the truth is that one thing that we do know about him is that he keeps his promises. In other words, when he says something, it doesn't change. The fact he says the Torah, for example, is eternal. So yes, he could make any changes that he wants to. But if he's going to say already, this is my eternal teaching and this is what is, so because he's God, he's trustworthy.
Yeah.
Okay. Weiter. So we're going.
Aval ba'o.
Aval ba'or. Okay, so all this is called mamali kololi, including atzilus. Aval ba'or shu lamayla mishayches la'olamos. How you doing on your own? I don't know, but you sit too far away now. I can't keep my eye on you anymore. What's that? Aval ba'or shu lamayla mishayches la'olamos. But the light, which is higher than any dealings with the worlds, any connection with the worlds. So the whole thing was the lead up to get to here. This is the light of Soviv Kolom. It comes in a way where it's surrounding and above the worlds. And again, what we said earlier is not that it's not surrounding and it's not above. It's in. That's why it says it ba. It comes in a way of this. It's just that what it means is why we call it surrounding is because it's not. It doesn't come into vessels. It doesn't consider these distinctions of vessels and creations and so forth in the way that they get in its way that is to reckon with them. It can be found there because it doesn't even consider worlds. So it can be found in the space of the worlds and it basically nullifies them out of creation. The only reason the worlds are able to exist in this presence of it is a greater miracle that Hashem just basically hides its revelation from the perspective of the creation. Right now in this room, there is Or Ein Sof Mamish, and no creation can exist in its wake. Just what? Hashem is performing this wondrous miracle of making it so that we do not perceive that. So it doesn't mean that it's not here. It's totally everywhere, and it's nullifying us out of existence. It's just that Hashem is creating this situation where we're not aware of that. And he's blocking that from our perception, which means that we experience as though we exist, and that we actually do exist. It's not only like a mirage, because it's a real miracle or function that he's performing of keeping this light from being experienced by us. But he's not keeping it from being here. It's here. It depends. In correspondence with the light, which doesn't take worlds into account, we're totally nullified out of existence. It's just that he's like carved out a space in there, whereby simultaneously that we're being nullified out of existence, we're also being brought into existence. But it doesn't move away the other light from being here. It just means that we can't perceive that light. And that's really what it means, the tzimtzum. The tzimtzum is a removal of light. It doesn't mean the light was actually removed, chas v'shalom. It means it became removed from our experience. It's hiding not even from itself. It's only hiding from us. Right? Which means it's 100% still here. I say sovev. They're similar. Bechin is sovev. In other words, they're two different dualities. There's sovev and mamali, and there's makif and panimi. So, depending on which language you're discussing, then this is like the level of sovev in regards to sovev and mamali, and makif in regards to makif and panimi. It's a sovev and makif. Okay, so this light, it comes in a way where it's removed from us. It's surrounding us. We don't see it. We're unaware of it. But it still is shining in all the worlds. And it's shining in all the worlds equally. And this is the whole distinction that he's making. Because in the world of, let's say, Yetzirah, it cannot handle the world of Bria in its vessels. If you put the light of Bria in the vessels of the world of Yetzirah, they would just disappear. They would become nullified. They can't bear to be Yetzirah and have the light of Bria inside of them. It's too much light, right? It would like short circuit them. But this light, the light of Sovev, because it is essentially not perceptible by the creations of any sort, Therefore, it can come into all the worlds equally, and all the worlds can, so to speak, bear it because none of the worlds are actually experiencing it. So depending on which kind of light, you see what I'm saying here or no? Like in other words, we just said that the light of Atzilus, Bria, Tzir, and Asiya, it shines in all the worlds at a different frequency, right? It's like it's a certain light, and it can be revealed in Atzilus, less revealed in Bria, and so forth. It comes down, it gets less and less revealed. So how can this light be revealed in all the worlds, or be shining equally in all the worlds? Because the point we just said, it's imperceptible to all the worlds. If we were a kli for it, then if you have to have a big enough kli to hold it. So then if you have a big enough kli, you can hold this much. If you have a little smaller kli, you can hold this much. But since it's a light which is essentially beyond being held in vessels, right? So therefore, it doesn't matter if you have a big kli or a small kli. You're not going to be able to hold it. And its presence is going to be a presence which is equally found in all the worlds without anybody perceiving any of it. Even Atzilus can perceive it just as little as we can perceive it. So it's officially two different types of light. This is the point he's making here. There's a light which is mamale. It's a totally different breed of light. This breed of light can be put into vessels. And therefore, depending how big your vessel is how much as of it you can see. But the breed of light which is sovev cannot be put into vessels. It cannot be held. It's an infinite light. And therefore, no matter how big your vessel is, or for that matter, how small your vessel is, it sits in you equally. It does go in. It just doesn't go in a way where you perceive it. Like, for example, a metaphor for this in Chassidus is, for example, like the will inside of the hand. Right? What you perceive in the hand is the function of action, maybe writing, or some kind of a muscle situation going on there. But there's a will. Your will is found in your hand. But your hand is completely unaware that this will is in it. And from the looks of it, you don't see the will in the hand. You see the action in the hand. You see the hitting a tennis racket. You don't see the will. The will is unseen. But certainly the will is not only there, but the whole thing wouldn't be happening. The hitting of the tennis racket wouldn't be happening unless the will was driving it. Right? So there's two powers. There's the power that gets vested into that particular limb. In your mind, there's intelligence. In your heart, there's emotions. In your feet, there's the power to walk. In your eye, there's the power to see. Right? And those are the particular powers that go inside of the vessels. Right? But underlying that, there's another power which is simultaneously there, which is unseen, which is the interest of looking over here or looking over here, directing, so to speak, the eye, directing the hand, directing the feet. So that is not what you see. When you see the feet in action, you see the action of the feet. When you see the eye in action, you see the perception of the eye. But the fact that the eye is going to perceive over here, the will behind that perception is not seen. It's hidden. But it's for sure in there in every way, because nothing would be happening unless the will was driving it. You follow what I'm saying here? So when we say that it's makif in as much as that you do not perceive it. What do you see? Vision. What do you perceive? Hearing, intelligence. You see the perceived powers. But what you don't see is what's driving them all, which is that they're directed in a certain way, in accordance with a certain interest, and that's the will. But show me which limb the will is in. Point to the limb where the will sits. Point me the limb where the intelligence sits. I'll show you. It's in my head. Point me the limb where my tennis racket abilities sit. I'll show you. It's in my arm. Point me the limb which holds the will. You won't find it. There is no limb of the will. And the same token, there is no limb which does not contain the will. Because any place you're going to do anything, it's the will that's making it happen. So this is the metaphor of this concept of how Sovev is not anywhere, but it's inside of every single thing all the time. Even though it's not held in any particular kli, it has access to everything because it's uncontractable in that way. That it's not in a place where it's contracted there, but it's also not limited to be not found in a certain place. It precedes the light after the tzimtzum, light which goes into vessels. It doesn't get contracted. No. Yeah. Yeah. But the only thing is that as we were saying, it's only imperceptible to the contracted light, but it's actually everywhere. It's actually everywhere. It never went away. It wasn't contracted. It's only that it was in the perception of the Mamali light. It's as though it's not there, but it itself never went anywhere. And therefore, it's busy running everything, even though nothing sees it in any way. It's running the body of Atzilus, the man in the chariot. There's a will behind that man. And it's this infinite Sovev light which is everywhere. It's just that the man himself doesn't see it. Sovev is related to will. It's the underlying force directing and controlling everything all at once. It's the will of every single thing to be to everything, and it's dafka the thing you don't see. What you see is only what it's directing. It's like the puppeteer, basically.
Does this table, does it have energy intelligence?
Energy intelligence. How would you describe that in Lashon HaChasidis?
Part of it.
It's definitely part of Hashem.
So it has that.
I don't know what energy intelligence exactly
You
is.
never
but
heard of that before?
no. I've heard of energy and intelligence, but I've never heard of energy intelligence. I'm not saying that, maybe I'm just behind the times there, but okay. Okay, we'll hold here, I suppose.
Are you saying that